indeed. I really appreciate being able to preside over this panel, and I want to thank Katie Brown again for the explanation of what we can do as island communities. You know, one of the things that is most fascinating is to see the trajectory of how we perceive living on an island. I think originally maybe the perception was when European societies first came into contact with island societies, they were amazed at their ability to be self-sufficient. And so island communities were kind of reified and praised for their ability to survive in such isolated circumstances. And now, at this point in time, we're kind of trying to resurrect that. But in the interim, I think most people think that living on an island makes you vulnerable, incapable of devising your own plans and schemes and ideas and dreams and aspirations. And I think changing that trajectory is really critical. And I'm really kind of addressing some of the young people here, because you're always going to hear from people who are maybe from the 20th century, like myself, you're always going to hear that islands are incapable of doing things, that they're so vulnerable, that they're out of the sea lanes, they're not capable of finding new ways to sustain themselves and to continue to have those aspirations. Many, many years ago, there was a Miss Guam pageant, and there were was on TV, and on that pageant, these were the 4 contestants. On that pageant, I'll never forget the comments of when they do the interview section, and they ask the contestants questions. And one of the questions was, they asked this young lady, who actually ended up winning the contest, how would you describe Guam? If you won this contest, how would you describe Guam? And she sat there, she stood there and thought about it, and she says, well, I'll tell people it's hot and that it's far away from San Francisco. And I thought, wow, that's an amazing worldview. And yet it is a very kind of common worldview, that we're kind of out of the sequence of real life, that we're kind of living in some kind of suspended animation, and that we're not able to construct our own view of things, and we're not able to take action. And that's why this panel is so important, because this panel is composed of people who've decided to take it into their own hands no matter what the circumstances. And that's really critical. So we're going to allow them to introduce themselves. They're from, they're from NGOs, they're from businesses, they're from academia, they're from resource agencies. And it's really important to see how people are able to take action on their own and make their contribution to issues of sustainability. And of course, I can't help but notice the fact that they're all women in this panel. Right, so we'll go ahead and we'll start with Jane. Go ahead.
Thank you. Hapaday, it's a pleasure to have been invited to come to this panel. My name is Jane Dia from the Guam Department of Agriculture, Division of Aquatic and Wildlife Resources. We are your go-to agency for wildlife restoration, fisheries management. Our mission is to preserve and protect natural resources for future generations on Guam. And so one of the contributions our agency has done is to be a member and a participant in the Micronesia Challenge. And from that Micronesia Challenge, our individual islands challenge was to run a conservation campaign on Guam. So I was able to run a marine preserve conservation campaign called PD Pride. It's a marine protected area in the Tapugan Bay, and my name of my campaign is PD Pride Tapugan Wide, because we wanted people to know that it is a marine preserve. But the best part about the campaign is that we did go out into communities, and the #1 strategy was to connect different resource users in the area to work together. And so our challenge was met. We had to talk to people who wouldn't normally talk to each other. We have fishers, resource users in the same body of water. You know, how can we get them to relate, to agree on certain issues, and to move forward together to protect an area that's already protected? So that was a really great challenge for us. But also, it was a pleasure to meet individual people. And it was effective to go out and talk to individuals. Talk to individual families that live by the shoreline. Talk to organizations that use the area for recreation, for sports. And just to see what they thought of the area. But most of all, we gave them a challenge. How can you help us protect this marine preserve? It's located where Fisheye Marine Park is. Everybody knows it. It's my favorite place to snorkel, my very first place I snorkeled on Guam. And you know, we really wanted people to know that our agency too is here to collaborate with other agencies. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
And good morning, and thank you, Dr. Underwood, for inviting me to be on this panel. I'm Fran Castro from Saipan, the CNMI Bureau of Environment and Coastal Quality, but also a board member of the community-based nonprofit MENA, Micronesia Islands Nature Alliance. And I'd like to highlight also some of their work, because they are a community-based organization and they've done a lot of work with the community. And so with our agency, we did similar to what Jane did, a Micronesia Challenge Pride campaign. And we did 2 campaigns. One was a terrestrial campaign in the Lala Bay watershed, and the behavior change that was targeted was to reduce land-based sources of pollution in that watershed, but like working with the community and through personal actions. And then the marine campaign was in the Manyagaha conservation area, and the desired behavior change there was to try to reduce poaching in the MPA and to increase awareness in the Tanapa community, which is adjacent to that MPA. And so both campaigns, I think, were very successful. They were conducted, the terrestrial one was conducted by a staff in my office, Jihan Bunyak, and then the marine campaign was out of the MENA organization and was done by CODEB. And so Jihan worked with the landowners in the Lala Bay watershed and basically worked with them to promote best management practices, took a bunch of kids in that watershed on many, many field trips, and the result of the campaign was that she targeted like 1,500 students that she had worked with and increased their awareness about land-based sources of pollution and why we need to implement best practices in our homes. But also 20 landowners participated and are doing best practices right now in that watershed. And then in Manyagaha, CODEB worked with the Tanapa community. There's a community action group there that died, but then CODEB helped to revive it again, and they were working on a locally managed marine area. So they're still working on a plan to try to get the Tanapa action group to try to manage their own marine areas. Because that's where all the larvae and the seeds that disperse throughout the MPA, since it's just adjacent to Manyagaha. But he also worked with the kids there in the Tanapa Elementary School and started the Micronesia Challenge Club. And these students, they're so involved and engaged in conservation that they collected money and donated $1,000 to the Micronesia Challenge Endowment for CNMI. But it was also like a message to the legislators and the governor that if we can raise these funds and contribute to the endowment, then you guys can do it too. And so that was a big message. And then just other work that MENA has done is the Taza Plastic Tuesdays. They worked with kind of similar to what they do here in Palos, Guam. So they work with a local store, Joten, to promote the Taza Plastic Tuesdays. And so if you brought in your reusable bag, you get a discount, 10 cents off if you use the special 60th anniversary bag. And so in the beginning, the Joten family were very hesitant to get into this campaign. But then after like 3 tries, they decided that yes, okay, we'll do it. And as a result, like 12 months later, they saved like 500,000 plastic bags. And you know, they were importing like 40-foot containers of just plastic bags alone for their stores. And one of the board members at the time, Bo, who's a friend of mine, I was like, Bo, you can't do this anymore because, you know, you're a board member of MENA and you're importing like 40-foot containers of plastic bags. And so we worked together, and so now it's very successful. And the people got accustomed to using their reusable bags. And so even though it's not Taza Plastic Tuesdays, they still come and do that. And then, I'm sorry, one more thing that MENA had done that I want to highlight because Austin had asked me is that we had this marine debris grant from NOAA, and we bought these industrial-sized recycle bins and put them in highly trafficked beach areas to try to establish an island culture of recycling. And so then we worked with private businesses to pay for the weekly hauling, and so that program has been successful since 2011. And you know, a lot of people are now like practicing how to recycle, and that's it.
All right.
My name is Kathy Sgro, and I'm the Executive Vice President at Payless Markets. And it's Earth Month, and I really commend the University of Guam Island for sustainability and President Underwood and everybody here today who is making an effort to promote sustainability. 20 years ago, Payless Markets had an initiative to give 5 cents for any bag that you brought in other than our bag. 5 years ago, we started a campaign called Mission Zero Bag Campaign. We hired a community relations coordinator who is here with us today, and we made it a focal point in our company to address the issue of our environment and the sustainability. I see everybody here today, but it really does take a community. It takes partnerships. We've been at this for many years, and what we found is that we need to be dynamic and come up with new ideas to refresh our campaign regularly. This year we have we've revived it by adding an additional incentive of 10 cents per bag on Wednesdays, in addition to not issuing any biodegradable plastic bags. So we do not issue plastic bags, but they are biodegradable, which of course does, it takes a while to actually biodegrade. But we have so many other, within our own company, we have energy efficient refrigeration and equipment, LED lamps. We make sure whenever we put anything into our company that there will be some form of sustainability. We have found that every 10 years when we renovate our store, there's less energy consumption because of the new technology and the equipment that's made available. Most recently, we are trying solar chill panels in one of our stores in our distribution center. We're really looking for ways to create energy conservation and sustainability in our company. Another recent effort is hiring a certified dietitian. We have a dietitian on staff, and she does a lot of educational tours, and we collaborate with a cooperative extension services in food nutrition and education. We have talks available on how to read labels. Being that it's Earth Month, we have an ad in the newspaper this week that says, sustainable seafood, tilapia, buy local. We have talk shows, we have talk seminars such as on the 28th Island Beautification Day, sign up. We have a talk on challenges with recycling waste on Guam. Learn ways you can upcycle with iRecycle. On April 29th, we have at our education challenges with recycling waste on Guam, the same thing. So we have numerous educational talks. We have a new area up in Denney. It's called One. Organic, natural, and education. So this is adjacent to our Denney store, and it's an organic and natural shop with our super drug, but we have a kitchen there, so we will be doing a lot of food demonstrations, and we encourage everybody to come and visit us. Thank you.
I want to point out that Kathy Sgro was a member of the Board of Regents. Appreciate her leadership very much.
Hi, my name is Demeulenaere, and I'm the Associate Director for the Center for Island Sustainability. When I think about sustainability, I think about the livelihoods from the island people here in Guam, about their strong connection with their land, about their the daily visit at the beach, and their language and their culture. But when talking to Ari yesterday and hearing his interesting talk, I was thinking maybe I should tell the story how I came on Guam and how I became a more sustainable person here. And it was through my kids. You know, I have 3 kids that are born and raised in Guam. And when they wake up in the morning, they look at outside and they eat their lunch and they say, hey, there's my favorite rooster. There's my favorite boonie chicken there. And the monitor lizard is passing by. So they have their connection. They sing in tomorrow. And then my son was asking, where is this breakfast coming from? Is it from Payless? Is it from our farmer around the corner? Is it from Bella? Did we grow it? So I was thinking, man, you know, they really have this connection with the land. So we started, I was actually a stay-at-home mom for 7 years, so we started this community garden at our house, and we invited neighbors and friends all over the island, and they came and grew food together with us. And a few of the moms told stories with puppets, and that's how we brought our stories around with our natural resources. And there was also the Fanihi that came, and my daughter lost flowers, and she wanted to know all the natives' flowers, but she also sometimes was wondering, and that flower, I was like, what is the name? And I said, that's the name, but she couldn't understand the name because it was a Latin name, because there was no local name, so it was harder for her to connect with it. So there we could tell a story about invasive species, right? So I really thought it was pretty interesting how kids are connected with their land and how all of us are connected with our land. Then moving on, working here for the Center for Island Sustainability and seeing our logo is the breadfruit, I thought there's a story there too. And I want to quickly go over that. I don't have puppets for you. So I think the logo for the Center for Island Sustainability being a breadfruit is a really good choice, because the lemai, it has a local name. You know, everybody knows the lemai. It connects to everyone here, and it is part of our food security. If we grow the lemai so long already, and it's other islanders use it too. So it's a connection with the other islands as well. We also grow it sustainably. We don't use any pesticides to grow it because it grows really well. It also helps against soil erosion in our watersheds. It's part of our agroforest system. Energy-wise too, if we plant it close to our house, it might shade our house, so we can connect it in any way. Also culturally, we cover our tables with the leaves. They're very beautiful, and as you notice, every single day of this conference, the cooks here at Hyatt have made a dish with it. So I really think that's what we want to do here at the Center for Island Sustainability. We want to connect the culture, the natural resources, all these input Kate was mentioning, all these different topics, the language, the culture, and find ways to be more sustainable in our daily lives.
Good day, everyone. My name is Peggy Denney. I am the administrator of the Recycle program. And just to clarify something, because many people think I started this program all by myself, and that's really not true at all. It was initially the idea of Frank Shimizu, the then CEO of Ambrose. He brought together Matson and Guam Waste Control, also known as Mr. Rubbershman, Coca-Cola, Formal Subway Glimpses, South Pacific Petroleum, initially Paris Brothers, and then a little bit later Bank of Guam joined us, and I hope I haven't left anybody out. But each of these partners plays a role in this program. They each pay a portion of my salary. Yay. And so we placed 40 bins, 8 cubic yard bins at 40 schools in the fall of 2007. So we are now in our 10th year. The schools have made over $225,000, which, as my dad used to say, is better than a poke in the eye with a sharp stick, but we can do much, much better. We are now in the process of expanding the program to 60 schools, and that's taking place currently because we are bringing in new 6 cubic yard durable plastic bins to see how well they stand up to the elements, because the metal bins have all practically rusted away to nothing. And so the program is expanding. I'm hoping that with a more aggressive effort by all participating schools that we can have a significant increase in the aluminum that's recycled. The iRecycle program also, kind of through me, is at practically every major event and many minor events. I figured that is the only way that we're going to spread the word about the fact that we can recycle aluminum and plastics 1 and 2 and steel cans and cardboard and paper and food waste. People are surprised that we even separate out food waste, but it goes to pig farmers. You know, everything is a resource. So the more we can separate that out, then the less trash we have going into the landfill, and that's how we strive for zero waste, which is really, really important. So if any of you students out there need service learning hours, you can help me recycle at the Banana Festival this weekend. And then there's the Mango Festival, there's Relay for Life, there's the Guam Micronesian Island Fair, there's the Carnival all summer. So there is a plethora of events for you to assist me with. So thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
Well, I'm going to ask, thank you very much for those presentations, because they kind of combine a whole series of ideas. One explains a little bit of leadership, community leadership, business leadership, personal interest, educational outcome, the resource agencies, and trying to work with communities. And all of these things are excellent community-based projects, which I think kind of put the island in the forefront of things, you know. So we like, Thumbs Up Plastic Tuesday and Thumbs Up Plastic Wednesday, maybe every day. Thumbs Up Plastic Week. But in any event, and I'm asking for you to get ready with some questions, but I'm just going to ask one basic question, because this is kind of like always an issue in my mind in terms of like, how do you do something in a society? And of course, you know, every kind of person who's in any kind of leadership position always tries to think, well, there's a carrot and there's a stick, you know. I'm going to beat them into it, I'm going to entice them into it, or there's always some kind of combination between how much carrot and how much stick. And so in this instance, we're talking primarily about collaboration and cooperation and education. But then there's also other ways of doing it, which is by law, by regulation, by forcing people to do it under a penalty of law. So just in that kind of issue between regulation as opposed to cooperation or something along those lines. I just want to hear your reaction to that idea of like, in your own personal efforts. I'm sure you face a lot of frustrations, and the quickest thing that any citizen says when they run into something that's really frustrating is they say, there ought to be a law. And so I'm just going to ask you, in your work, is there something that comes to your mind sometimes that says, wow, there ought to be a law? Or what is your general reaction to the notion between, just continuing these collaborative relationships as opposed to something a little bit stricter or more restrictive? We'll start with you. All right, Jane.
I think the very first term that comes to mind for me is benefits exchange. So you're asking people in general to do something that benefits the environment, but the question is, how does it benefit the community? How does it benefit the individual? And so having that conversation about, you know, protecting the environment and our resources contribute to, you know, healthy lifestyle, beautiful natural environment, increase in tourism. I mean, those are great conversations to have with people when you're talking to them about helping along with your objectives and your ideas. I mean, you know, what's in it for me? That's the question. What's in it for me? Why am I going to protect native birds? I don't see them. You know, why should I try? We'll never see them. We used to see them. And then those are the conversations we have to address. Like, it's true, we did lose a great number of our native birds, but the hope is, you know, can you also imagine the birds coming back? And if you really, you know, truly believe in a beautiful Guam, in a place where people want to come and enjoy natural native animals and the environment, and then you ask them, you know, how can you help us? You know, and some people have come to us and offered, could we give you some donations to help feed your wild birds? Could we give you some support somehow? And those are great conversations. So what's in it for them, they've answered, we do want to support native wildlife. We do want to see our native birds back. And so that's what's great. You know, like Bank of Guam came to us and said, you know, we have this junior achievement. They want to make a tote bag with the cocoa bird on it, and we want to give a portion of the proceeds to your native bird captive breeding facility. And so they were able to purchase eggs for our birds and crickets. And so those are the kinds of things that are exciting. You know, people have seen what they can contribute really impacts, positive impacts for Guam. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think in CNMI it's kind of similar. It's the benefit exchange. It's like, what's in it for me? And when we first started the Taza Plastic Tuesday, everyone was kind of complaining, like, you know, but we still use plastics, we still recycle them, and you know, we should, like, hey, you get 10 cents off, and you get 5 cents off if you use this, and you're protecting the environment. You know, you're trying to keep all these plastics out of the landfill. But as a result also of the Taza Plastic Tuesday, one of the legislators wanted to champion banning plastics, and so now we have like legislation that's being introduced to try to ban plastics in CNMI, and of course it's created like you know, some chaos in the business community. Is like, but we need plastics, so we're working on trying to you know, address those comments and trying to find that happy medium between you know, the community and the business.
But do we need styrofoam?
Yeah, we don't need styrofoam. That's the one thing that actually I want to work on to include in that bill. It's getting difficult. But you know, there are other materials out there that are recyclable. Like there's bento boxes now that you can recycle. So we're working on it.
Thanks.
Education really is a core for sustaining programs that will benefit the community. We do quite a bit of that. We start with the children, where we have contests for coming up with new bags. When we first kicked off our campaign, we had a lot of resistance because we were very enthusiastic about it, and we got rid of bags altogether. And a lot of our customers were not happy about not having trash bag liners that were free or little totes. So we ended up through the years revising it. We worked with Peggy, Denney, and other organizations to help us come up with a nice middle ground to be able to address our objective of a sustainable company and encouraging our community, but also we're a business and we have to satisfy our company as well. Personally, I think it would be helpful if there were some form of legislation that would be able to address and mitigate our situation. We're an island, we're surrounded by an ocean, we can't go very far, and I think every single member of our community has a vested interest in ensuring our sustainability. It's challenging for a company to take a stand in a very aggressive mode and just wipe it out altogether. It would be awesome, but I have a board that I need to speak to. And so to answer your question, I think that it would be beneficial. I'm not quite certain how the language would be, but
I'll give her my draft.
All right, super good.
When the conversations yesterday for Bago Bay, I was talking with the mayor after, and I think for Guam, for policy making, we need more bottom-up instead of top-down policy here on Guam. And I think it is important to listen to our communities and see how we can connect them more with the issues they're facing and trying to solve it that way. That's one thing I wanted to say for policy making, but like for the Center for Island Sustainability, what we work on especially is awareness and in the education as well. And Phil Cruz, he's our sustainability coordinator, and he first of all, of course, does it at our university. He's trying to make our university more sustainable and incorporate all these practices, but we do it on an island scale as well. And one thing we did this last month, or actually this month, is a minimalism challenge to see whatever you buy, make sure you really need it, you know. So and go over all the things you have, and maybe you can just give them away to somebody else, and somebody else can make use of it. So that's a way how we at the center trying to perpetuate that sustainability mission. But also, of course, through legislation and introducing bills that would also be a good way to establish some policies.
Thank you.
So, you know, sorting through trash is not very exciting. It doesn't appeal to a lot of people. And so the more kids that we get involved in this, and actually just anyone in general, when you start sorting through and you realize what can be recycled and what cannot, and what can be composted and what cannot, and how little you're left with that has to go into the landfill, when that becomes kind of an integrated part of your daily life, then you've made significant progress. And I have always been a strong proponent of grassroots efforts, of getting people to do the right thing. Now, then you come to things like styrofoam and plastic bags, and it is really, really challenging because we have such a love affair with styrofoam and plastic bags on Guam. I mean, they're ubiquitous, and obviously they do not biodegrade. Even those that are biodegradable are not going to biodegrade in a landfill because you have an anaerobic setting. So anyway, I kind of have changed my viewpoint a little bit with respect to those two items, and I really think we should just ban them. And then you work on bringing in recyclable containers or biodegradable containers, and you ensure that those biodegradable containers are going to be composted so that they don't end up in the landfill as well. So that's kind of where I stand.
Thank you. So maybe coming out of this event, we'll see more legislation now. That we did ban styrofoam at the university, but we haven't figured out what the punishment is yet, other than a stern look from the president. What are you doing with that styrofoam there? But so formally we buy something that's biodegradable, which is available, by the way. Okay, so we'll open it up to questions. Go ahead.
Question, Dr. Underwood, but to comment that we all practice Balutan here. And I'm just going to make a suggestion can wash and reuse the next time you're going to another party for your Newton.
Don't re-gift it, please. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning. I just had a quick question in terms of engaging communities, because we do a lot of that work for my position and some of the projects I'm involved in, and it's sometimes very challenging. But one of the things I'm curious about is I think we have this tendency to kind of like, we know a lot, and we're super excited and passionate about what we're doing, and I think it intimidates people sometimes, right? Like, I'm thinking particularly the native plants work that I've been doing lately. I think people are like afraid to try, because they're like, oh my god, this plant's rare, and I'm going to kill it, and I don't want to be responsible. And I mean, even stuff like going out with some of the teachers I work with, we're hiking through the woods and they have like kids chomping on an ESA plant because they don't know what it is. And how do we sort of get around that desire to sort of show that we know stuff, and we want to share this excitement, and we like to use these fancy words and the jargon, but how do we reach people in a better way so that it makes them not afraid to try these things? Because I start to see that in some of these events that I'm at, and I wonder if you have suggestions for getting around it.
Anyone?
Yeah, I think one thing that really helps is telling these plants or animals are typical for Guam and only occur in Guam and are part from our culture. They're part of our culture and our daily livelihoods. And I think that breaks the ice for everyone. I even talked to policymakers and I said, these are your plants, you know, that breaks the ice, I think. But then also, I think getting them engaged in trying to protect these plants, and that's why I was mentioning bottom up instead of top down. And I do love the Endangered Species Act, but I do think for Guam we need to be able to engage our communities with these plants and these endemics, you know, from bottom up and try to protect them. And yesterday we suggested, for instance, for endangered butterfly, why don't you plant these host plants in your garden? Because they're so interconnected. The butterfly and the host plant are co-evolutionary connected, so they will find these plants. So I hope to actually really engage communities to be part of the restoration work we do. And when we work in these watersheds, like Austin and myself are doing, you know, with the Rheumatic Project, he really did succeed in that effort, like engaging the community and be part of solving the problem.
Anyone else?
First of all, I think, hello?
Kathy.
Hello. Okay, so first of all, Adrian does a bang-up job of taking people out, especially the youth, and planting and teaching them native species and everything. So I think you're doing what we should be doing, is taking people actually there. I think the challenges is driving people there, and I think if the partners can help drive people there, because you're doing what we should be doing, but it's instilling the pride of the item, the plant, the product, or the area, the habitat, and just really talking about our culture, and people on Guam is part of that. You can't take the people out of the culture, out of the environment. You got to connect them. So I think you're doing a great job, Adrian. I think it's just the constant educating in different forms in the classroom, but also in the home, and just having it on media and having people just keep promoting it by discussion of those important issues. I think that's something we can all do as a community, is keep talking about native plants. And I think that's something you keep seeing somebody, did you know this native plant does this? And even Ursula and her medicinal plant knowledge, and everyone else that knows about medicinal plants, you show them every time you see it, did you know this plant can do this? And and I think with children and youth, it's about teaching them a skill. So you're teaching them how to plant, and then show them how to teach others. And then that's something where they can, just increase that knowledge with other people.
Very good.
I'm Linda Regis. I'm from the village of Inaloha. And I just wanted to comment that, in the old days, we used to pick up, my mom and dad had a mom and pop store in the village, and we had to go pick up empty bottles and get a refund for that. I was thinking of suggesting that styrofoam and plastic bags that you pay
just on the catchment, because that was raised yesterday. Almost every time we've had a dream home competition or a dreams home competition, catchment was always a big part of that. And I don't know what it costs to actually build it into a new home. I'm assuming it doesn't really cost that much, but it just seems like we're not really thinking about our water resources in that way. Any reaction to this?
Good ideas.
Good idea.
I think every act counts.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Bob Schambach with the Recycling Association of Guam. So I could probably stand here for 15 minutes, but I'm not going to. Thank you to all the ladies on the panel there, because you all are doing a great job. Now I get to pick on you. Fran, one of the comments that you made was, you know, some of the vendors are saying, well, we need plastic bags. Correct, plastic bags. So what did they do before 1985 when plastic bags actually came into the supermarkets? So they used something, either they used bags or recyclable, bandana sleeves, I don't know what they used, but somebody in Saipan had a container to go and collect their market supplies. So I think you have to find a good response to those folks and say, your grandparents and your parents made it happen, so I think we can do it too. Okay? Now, on to Kathy. She gets an earful every time I see her, I think. But again, congratulations on 5 years of the zero bags. When the program was initiated, I had high hopes for the program, in hoping that Payless was going to take a day off every year. So being 5 years into it, we're still only 1 day a week. We have 7 days in a week. I'd love to see Payless really just go cold turkey. Get rid of them all.
Cold turkey.
Cold turkey. And never mind the people that are bringing the bags in to get the 5 or 10 cent reimbursement. I think you need to find the people that are actually using the plastic bags. And I'm sure there's been studies done, you know, even in San Francisco, Hawaii, all these other places that have actually done the ban, they still have bags available, but you do pay that 10 cents per bag. So I think that people are going to realize, you know, the convenience of getting that bag isn't there anymore. Now you have to pay for it. When us that bring our reusable bags, you know, we're all fine and dandy. We're already trained. We're there. But you have to train those other 90% that aren't where we are right now. And I think initiating that 5 or 10 cent would help. You can respond to that. I have 3 other things here.
Well, thank you for that. We had talked at one point about eliminating once a year. We held off by creating more incentives, hoping to see, like right now in our Think Special area, right at the checkout counter, it's called Bag and Save, and these are items that are at a better price if you bring your reusable bag. We decided to try other options before going down that road. We're looking at the numbers, and by adding the 10 cents increase, we are seeing the numbers go down, not to the extent that I would like to see them. And but thank you for your suggestion, and we'll certainly take that.
Hopefully next year you'll have, you know, more progress, and maybe you guys can actually do a presentation and throw some numbers on what you've seen over the past 5 years and the number of bags. You know, 10 million bags versus now you're down to 5 million or whatever it is.
Well, what I do know is that we have eliminated 8 million plastic bags from being circulated throughout our island in the past 5 years.
Which is a very small fraction of what you
It is, but it starts with the first step.
All right, 3 more. Go ahead, Angie.
Yes, my name is Angie. I'd like to commend Kathy and Payless for all the good things that you're doing to help Guam sustainable. We're still working on it, and you're part of that, and that's very good. And I just want you to know that I'm still using your plastic bag for my trash line. So I'm recycling it like what Peggy always advocates to reuse, recycle, and reduce. So, and then if I don't use Payless plastic bag, then I still have to go buy plastic trash bags. So that has to be addressed too. And Peggy and Kathy, Peggy, you mentioned like making it a daily thing in your life. Well, when I met you, I started doing my green waste from the kitchen into my recycle bin, and then I mix it with Phoebe said, you need to put grass in there. So I put grass in there, so I'm using it for my plants, and they're thriving. And Kathy, from your Payless Market, one time I picked up a bunch of old onions that were ready to be disposed of. I planted them, cut them, and used the bottom part right with the roots, and then I sold them back to Payless. Thank you for being very supportive of local farmers.
And thank you, Angie, for being a local farmer. Payless purchases 1.5 million pounds of local produce every year.
I still want the onions
local farmers.
so that I can grow them more and sell them back to you.
I'm going to have you come to our edu classes, where we are having classes on composting and now recycling, Angie style.
But Peggy, you're doing a great job, and I hope that everybody will try to conserve or save your green waste from your kitchen. It's really amazing how much we're throwing away. Use them for your compost. And I want to congratulate the ladies and the panel, just to show it's a showcase that not just men, but women. The women power, and we're the ones that are in the kitchen most of the time. And
I just kind of wonder, maybe anyone on the panel can tell me what the efforts that you're doing, how are you measuring success, or what are those performance measures? What do you consider success other than we all, in fact, I've been doing a lot of environmental stuff for a very long time, and we all actually enjoy that fellowship and the contribution we feel towards the environment. But on your work, what do you actually are measuring it against in terms of performance? What do you hold that any of the work that you're doing, and I know very obvious for Peggy, we want to reduce the waste, but for these other things, what do you think that is the goal? Is it, of course, I know that we all want to try to change behavior, but how are you measuring that?
For some of our projects in CNMI, we do a lot of pre and post surveys before we try to implement something. But we also look at how the project can sustain itself. Like, for example, the MENA Adopted In program has been going on since 2011, and it's self-sustaining. And we got this grant one time. We put these recycle bins out, and then all these businesses want to sponsor the hauling, like weekly hauling. And so we think if it's self-sustaining, that's a good measure.
I think for a university, it would be great that every single department, every faculty part of their education is about sustainability. No matter if you do natural resources or business or tourism, and we noticed it yesterday and today, there are so many interdisciplinary topics we have here, and we can all touch it with that sustainability measurement. And if we could measure that, is every program incorporating that and it could also be with the schools as well. It could be one course that is like throughout everything.
I was just going to add to that too. Pre and post surveys were a good way to measure different changes. But so the PD Pride campaign was just approached recently by the new PD mayor to take it on. And so I think that's a great measure of success, is that without our agency leading it, the village itself is going to continue the program. And also at the end of the PD Pride campaign, Tumon was also interested. And so we were segueing residents who live along the shoreline to also do their own project with informing tourists not to collect sea cucumbers. So that was something where people in the community approach our agency to do their own part by themselves, and I think that's a great measure of success.
Thank you.
Can I add to that real
Sure,
quick?
go ahead.
We measure at Payless, we're very judicious about knowing how much it costs, because those 5 cents adds up, 5 and now 10 cents. So over the past 5 years, we have invested over $500,000 in rebates back to the community because of a rebate for bringing in your reusable bags. We also track the number of transactions and the number of bags, reusable bags that we sell. So we have seen an increase all across the board, which is positive.
Very good.
I have one comment and 2 questions. So for Kathy and Payless, I noticed that your Denancy deals that you guys have been doing have been really integrating lower cost vegetables, and I wanted to say thank you for reducing the cost of asparagus, first of all. That is huge in improving the health and sustaining our bodies, and maybe one day that'll be local asparagus, but that's a really big deal to me. I never ate asparagus. That's my comment. And so I appreciate that, and I hope we can continue those investments in the community's health and well-being and our environment. For Peggy, in terms of when you're out at events, you have volunteers manning the bins, because if we don't do that, then people just chuck things in any bin that they can, whatever's closest. So over the last 5-10 years that we've been doing this, have you noticed that you have to monitor the bins less for sorting? So are people learning and exhibiting positive behavior in terms of putting the things in the right bins more now than they were when you started? I hope the answer is yes.
That's kind of a tough one. I mean, I think that people are learning and they care more. They're still very confused about biodegradables. They just don't know what that is. Food waste, they often include everything, plate and plasticware or whatever, entirely. But I mean, we are getting better, and one thing that's really nice is when I first started doing this, especially at the carnival, and people really, they gave me such funny looks, like I was some odd bag lady. And now, I mean, that's true. A couple of times people have said, "Ma'am, can I buy you dinner?"
But you said yes, I know.
No, I said, so, anyway, I think that it is improving, and people tend to be so much more appreciative of not only my efforts, but all the volunteers, you know, which is really very, very nice. So that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you.
I want to add something to that real quick. Yeah,
Okay,
so
go ahead.
Phil Cruz did something really interesting with our last charter day. He had all the vendors come through our office to sign their contract and make sure they committed to be more sustainable. and it did help. There was a big reduction, right, Phil? So but the manning of the bins that you are doing, there is a big difference, I think, when you man and when you don't man. So
Yeah,
it takes actually a lot of effort afterwards.
That's why I need volunteers.
Okay. All right, real quick, Rob.
Okay, the first thing, my name is Ron Kidwa, and I'm a frequent shopper at your store, Kathy. So the one thing that I like to do is I'd like to help you lower your cost, and I hopefully in the tail end it'll translate to savings for us as consumers. A couple of things that I've seen is as you were doing this education for the consumers, you might want to get somebody to evaluate the way that your employees handle the local produce and all produce, because I've witnessed them not handling it in the best manner possible and actually causing more damage, and so ultimately you have to make up for that loss because you don't bang grapes when you're stocking it, and you don't dump sweet potato over your shoulder onto the onto the shelf, and then we end up with half-rotten sweet potatoes. But I've also seen that, you know, you bring in a lot of head cabbage from off island, and it's because it's cheaper than it is to purchase, and we try to produce head cabbage locally. The product, the local head cabbage is awesome. It is super sweet. The quality, I've never had a U.S. head cabbage that can compare with a local head cabbage. But I've also seen the guys in the back sitting there, multiple persons, 2, 3 people sitting there and peeling the stuff that's coming from the U.S. So when you consider you paid 13 cents or whatever for this, and then you're paying these employees how long to sit there and scrape each and clean off every head cabbage, you might be cheaper buying a local head cabbage. So take a look at that.
All right, thank you.
I'd be happy to sit down and spend more time and discuss your concerns.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. First of all, how about a round of applause for this very lively panel?